It's Ash from SuperVideos, back for another video for the Walking Dead universe. In this video, we're going to take a look at something that was teased in an interview. The tease came from Andrew Lincoln, who of course plays Rick Grimes. The Walking Dead will at some point go back to survival horror, and it will be a much narrower story. It will be fewer characters, fewer stories, but more in-depth stories. And obviously they're going to try to bring back the survival horror that Walking Dead is known for. That definitely sounds great, and it needs to happen. So stay tuned, we'll be right back to break the details down. Alright, as always, before we dive into it, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. With that said, let's dive right into it. So Andrew Lincoln did an interview recently where he talked about the possibility of him returning. The last time we saw him was in The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, and even though there were a lot of criticisms for the show and a lot of people were disappointed, we all absolutely loved seeing Rick back in action and seeing Andrew Lincoln play the character again. So as far as fans are concerned, we want to see Andrew Lincoln back. We want to see Rick back. Outside of that, we want The Walking Dead to return to why we fell in love with it in the first place, which is the survival horror aspect of it. So I definitely agree that they need to go back to survival horror. I agree that if Andrew Lincoln does come back, he will have to come back into a type of story and type of show that does bring that back. Now let's talk a little bit about where he could return. Obviously, the one possibility is that he returns on a new show, but I think that's a bad idea. The reason for that is because they already brought him back for his own show, and that was it. So now we don't want to see these side stories and these side quests anymore. We want to see him back in action in one of the main stories. At this point, there is only two main stories that's going on. One is Dead City with Negan and Maggie, which is in the future. Now, if we think about their story, it would be a little weird to bring Rick back in there. I mean, we know that 5 years has passed, so both Negan and Maggie have probably seen Rick back. So if they bring Rick back, they're gonna have to backtrack a little bit and tell us a little bit about the first time that he saw Negan again and Maggie and all of that. So it would be a little awkward as far as the Dead City story. It would be like taking the story away from that and focusing on something else, which I think is a bad idea. But if we look at Dead City, we definitely saw aspects of that survival horror in the first season of Dead City with the mutated walker and some other stuff that we saw in that season of Dead City. So this could definitely line up perfectly with the vision that they have for the future and with what Andrew Lincoln was talking about. So if they pump that up in future seasons, put Rick and Negan and Maggie in those types of situations and ramp up the action, then that would definitely be great, and it would be a perfect way to bring Rick back again and to have him join a cast that's smaller, a story that has a lot more of that survival horror that we missed from The Walking Dead. The other possibility is that they could bring Rick back in the Daryl Dixon spinoff. The issue with that is the Daryl Dixon spinoff timeline is very close to the Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live timeline. So because of that, if they do end up bringing Rick back and having him reunite with Daryl, they don't have much to work with there as far as what's next. I don't think that they would want to immediately jump into the next big thing after Daryl reunites with Rick. So they might have to do a time jump, and I don't think it's a good idea. But again, looking at the Daryl Dixon spinoff with the variants, that is that survival horror side of The Walking Dead that they brought back in that show. And there was a lot of great action in there with Daryl fighting these variant walkers. And I'm sure that everyone wants to see Rick in those situations too, dealing with the variants and all of that. And in some ways that would work. But at the same time, I feel like because they did it with Daryl, it'll be repetitive if they do it with Rick too. You know what I mean? But from a reunion perspective, yes, it would be absolutely fantastic to see Rick reunite with Daryl and have the two of them fight a variant or something like that. But if I were to choose between Rick joining Dead City or Rick joining the Daryl Dixon spinoff, I'm going with Dead City. And the reason for that is because the story feels much larger. It feels like there's a lot more opportunities with the story, but at the same time, it's with smaller characters. And also, he's dealing with something that could potentially be very intriguing with the warlords of Manhattan and all of that. But if we look at the Daryl Dixon spinoff, it's really connected to Rick's story. It's intertwined with Rick's story because Daryl left to search for Rick. So it doesn't really feel like there's any opportunity there to have the two of them be involved in a bigger story. Unless they have Rick and Daryl join forces to fight Janae's group in France, which is cool too, but at the same time, I feel like there isn't a lot of setup for that. And I feel like if they do that, it'll be for shock value more than a story that has been fleshed out and thought all the way through. You know what I mean? But that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through in this video. I am interested to know your thoughts and opinions, so share that in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, smash the like button, subscribe to join our community, and press the bell to be notified when I upload on the channel. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.